Bobby Fischer pins a pawn with his bishop, and then his rook takes that pin pawn, which could be captured by the black's rook. But if you capture it, you'll if you, even if you capture it, and even if you didn't capture it, you are in trouble. And it's actually better to watch the game because it's very difficult to explain. So this is the Sicilian being played by James Sherwin, who is playing with the black pieces, and Fisher is playing with the white pieces, and now this is the Sicilian defense, the Najdorf variation of the Sicilian defense that is being played. And after knight f6, knight c3 is played by Fischer with the white pieces, and a6 is played by James Sherwin, preventing the knights and the bishop from coming here into the b5 square. So, so the bishop goes to c4, attacking the f pawn, and e6 is played, protecting the king and also activating the bishop, helping the bishop to develop. And castles on the king side, Fischer, and b5 is played, attacking the bishop. So the bishop retreats to b3, still keeping its eye on that f square, even though it's defended by the pawn. So b4 is played, attacking the knight. The knight retrieves to the b1 square from where it jumped, and bishop to d7 is placed by James, and bishop to e3 plays Fischer, and the knight to c6 is played. So after that, f3 is played by Fischer, creating this nice little pawn structure on the center of the board, and bishop to e7 by James Sherwin, and c3 by Fischer, attacking that pawn. And after the pawn captures the pawn, the knight, instead of going for the pawn capture, the knight is captured. The knight takes the knight, and the bishop takes the knight back. So Fischer takes the pawn with his knight, and after that, James castles on the king side as well, and the rook comes to c1 here. So the queen goes to b8 now, and knight to d5 is now played. Yes, this pawn can capture this knight, but if this pawn, there's a discovered attack on this bishop over here. So yes, the bishop can capture. Then there will be a lot of captures here, and so the knight is now captured by the pawn, and now the bishop is taken by the rook, activating the rook. So the pawn is basically taken, and the pawns get exchanged, and the queen comes to b5, attacking the rook, and also creating, developing the queen into an active square. So rook to b6 is played by Fischer, attacking the queen. So the queen goes to e5, and bishop to d4, attacking the queen, and the queen again goes to g5. So this pawn is definitely hanging, but if you take that pawn like this, the rook will come here, and this bishop will be gone, because this queen cannot retrieve in such a way that it can protect this bishop. So because of that, you cannot take that pawn even though it's a free pawn. Uh, so the uh, so the queen goes to f3, protecting that pawn over there. And because the knight was is also attacking that pawn, and the knight jumps to d7, attacking the rook, and the rook goes to b7, attacking the knight, and knight again jumps to e5, attacking the queen, and queen goes to e2, and now the bishop goes to f6, attacking that very good bishop. Both these bishops are very dangerous pieces, angling towards the king. So now the king goes to h1, getting away from this very dangerous dark square diagonal, which can be used to launch attack. And with both the queen and the black bishop on the with the dark square bishop on the board, it's very risky to keep the king on g1. So the king moves to h1, and a5 is played by James. And now the bishop goes to d5. Now, once the bishop is in this one of these central squares on the board, they are basically dangerous pieces because they can cover all parts of the board from here. And also the knights, when here, they can cover many number of pieces, unlike the rook and the queen. So the rook goes to c8 through this open c line, and the bishop goes to c3, trying to prevent the rook from coming into the seventh or second or first rank. And now the pawn is pushed to a4, and rook to a7 by Fischer, attacking that weak backward pawn. And the knight jumps to g4, and the pawn is taken by Fischer. And because of that discovered attack on the bishop, the bishop captures bishop. And once the pawn captures bishop, this pawn is taken. So that pawn for this pawn basically. And after that, in comes the this magic move. rook to f7, and yes, this. So you'll be wondering what's happening now. This is what I was talking about. So yes, this rook can capture. So I will show you what will happen if the rook capture. It's checkmate like this. Because yes, if the even if the rook goes here, even the queen goes here, just delaying it by one or two moves, because you cannot close that check with your rook here, because this rook is basically pinned with this bishop. So basically from this position the rook cannot capture. So instead this check is placed. So now this check is closed, interestingly, because this king is also under serious attack, and now the check happened with the support of the queen here. So this check is covered basically by the queen, and the queen goes to f1. Now, yes, this let's say if the rook captures. So you'll be wondering what happens if the rook captures. The the the, the other rook, the rook over here will capture this. This rook cannot capture the f1 rook because it's a check now. So once the king moves away, even if you capture like this, the game will be like this basically. So so that cannot happen. So the pawn to h5 move is now played instead, and the queen captures c1. And yes, you can still capture this particular queen with your queen, but if you do that again, the same scenario ensures the rook will come here and the queen will be gone basically. So it didn't happen. So because of that, uh, the queen didn't capture, and the queen goes to h4, and the rook takes the rook with a check. So still you cannot capture this rook here. The king cannot capture. If the king capture, it will be checkmate again. So the queen can come here with a check, and after the following moves, it is a checkmate. So here as well, you cannot capture with your king. So the king had to move to h7, and h3 is played, attacking the knight, which was creating a checkmate threat over here. So the queen goes to g3 now, and after that, the knight is taken, and h4 is played, and bishop to e6. And in this position, basically, James resigned the game because the following combination will result in a checkmate. And after this following moves, it's a checkmate on the board. So a beautiful game. So this incredible move caused all the troubles. I've never seen such a position in my life. So very interesting position, lot to learn from. So what you have to see is that this king is very much under threat, and because of this bishop here, any threats to the king is basically non-existent basically. So very interesting position, interesting game. I hope you liked it. I'd rate it as one of the best games actually I've seen. So thanks very much for watching. We'll be back with more such videos.